What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my betting breakdown video for UFC Vegas 70. We have Nikita Krylov going against Ryan Spann.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all it is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another betting breakdown video. This week breaking down UFC Vegas 70, an 11-fight card now after losing 2 fights. We lost the Perez-Cohen fight, and then we also lost the Armfield-Johnson fight, which was really looking forward to that Armfield-Johnson fight. I actually had a bet on it as well. But we're now down to 11 fights. I have 9 bets that I want to talk about. Again, not the best card in the world. We're going to have some really good cards coming up here in March, but I actually really like this main card. Have a lot of bets on this main card. The prelims, they're whatever, but I'm as always looking forward to watching some fights, breaking down some fights. Before we get started, if you guys can please leave a like on the video. One small like does go a long way. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I'm going to be getting out some early content for UFC 285. I'm actually going to be at the card next week, so I'm going to be getting ahead here and getting out some early content there, so I don't have to do much in Vegas while I'm there. But yeah, other than that, you can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, my DMs are always open. And yeah, let's make some money for UFC Vegas 70. Again, not the best name value card, but I think there's some spots that are really sticking out, so we'll talk about them here. As always, we're going to go through these fights from a betting perspective and a betting perspective only. If you do want a further, more in-depth breakdown on why I like which fighter and why I'm betting what, I did post a full card breakdown and prediction video on Tuesday, and then I also did a live stream on Friday, so go check those out if you have not already. But we're going to start with the first fight of the card, and like I said, I don't have a ton of action on these prelims. I think I have 2 bets, or 3 bets now. Now that the peak fight's a prelim, the card kind of got moved around a little bit. But Aliev going against Alves, nothing here. I mean, I was tempted on like maybe the under just because Rafael Alves has been finished 10 times, but you take a look at Aliev, he's not much of a finisher, only a 20% finish rate. You know, if I was to play this fight, it would probably be like the Nurullah Aliev like 3rd round or decision prop on FanDuel Sportsbook, which is sitting at plus 180, just because it covers that late finish if Alves does slow down. But I think decision's probably most likely for Aliev. And if you do like Rafael Alves, you got to look at the inside the distance or like the finish only. But it's a fight where I don't have a ton of confidence either way. The pick for me is going to be Aliev. I think he does weather that early storm, but Alves is super dangerous early, and this is going to be a big test for Aliev. So I think Aliev is the real deal, but not really a fight I want anything to do with. But the pick is going to be Aliev here. Next, we got Joe Solecki going against Carl Deaton III. I do have a bet here. So I took a half unit shot on the fight to end by submission at plus 107. The reason I did that instead of Joe Solecki by submission, it's because there wasn't much of a difference. I think Joe Solecki by submission was like anywhere from plus 110 to plus 114, and the fight to end by submission was plus 107. So I just took the plus 107 because you take a look at Deaton, and he actually has finished the majority of his wins by submission. And I'm not saying he's going to submit, Solecki, but he's finished 53% of his wins by submission. But I fully expect Solecki to get this fight down to the mat. He's going to be the bigger fighter. Deaton, he's going to be taking just a big step up in competition. The best guy Deaton's fought as of recent is probably Justin James, and he went out there and beat Justin James, who's in the UFC, but Joe Solecki's ground game is going to be on another level here. So I think Solecki gets his fight down to the mat. I think he finds that submission probably early on as well. So I like Solecki. He's a minus 600 favorite, though. I like Solecki inside the distance. I like him by sub. But like I said, there wasn't much difference between that submission prop and the fight ends by sub. So I just took the fight ends by submission, half a unit, plus 107 for my first bet of the card. All right. Next, we have Charles Johnson going against Ode Osborne, a catchweight bout here, 130 pounds. We have Charles Johnson around minus 170. Ode Osborne around plus 145. Initially, earlier in the week, I was looking at like an over because I think these overs were really mispriced. I think like the over 1.5 opened up like minus 160, but that's like minus 230 now, so I'm definitely not touching that. I was thinking about maybe like the fight goes to decision, and but I think I'm just going to pass on this one. The lean is going to be Charles Johnson here, and Charles Johnson probably by decision, but the line is closing up here. Money's been coming in on Ode Osborne. I get it. It should be a close fight, competitive fight. Charles Johnson's coming in on short notice, but I think he's going to be prepared. The pick is Charles Johnson, but nothing really sticking out. I'm not laying chalk on Johnson here, and nothing really sticking out from a prop perspective. Typically Ode Osborne fights are fights where I like to target violence, but Charles Johnson's next level durable, never been knocked out, never been subbed, and not like some murderous power puncher as well. So I think this fight probably does go the distance, but nothing I'm putting my money on. All right, next we got Victor Martinez going against Jordan Levitt. I do have a bet here. Was tempted on like the under or like the fight doesn't go. I don't think the under or the fight doesn't go is a terrible look just because we got a striker versus grappler matchup here where, you know, if Jordan Levitt gets the fight down to the mat, he should be able to have his way with Martinez, get that submission. And if he's not able to get the fight down to the mat, Martinez is going to potentially knock him out here. So I thought maybe about the under, but I just put a half unit shot on the Levitt side. I am on the Levitt side here. Put a half unit shot on Levitt to win inside the distance at plus 200. I think it's obviously sub, but there's like no difference between the sub or the inside the distance. Might as well cover that potential TKO there. But yeah, half a unit on Levitt inside the distance, just because I've seen Martinez, like I watched all his fights and he's getting taken down in every single fight I watched. I mean, I don't think there was a fight where he wasn't getting taken down, and he's giving up his back, he's giving up bad positions on the mat. And I think if Levitt's able to get this fight down to the mat, which I highly think he does, I think he's going to have a ton of opportunities to find that submission. If Levitt, of course, is not able to get the fight down to the mat, he's going to lose. Martinez is going to be the much better striker here. So the play for me is Levitt inside the distance. I don't hate like the under, the fight doesn't go, but it is a little bit pricey. Like the fight doesn't go is now like minus 180, minus 190. So I think I'm going to stay away from there, but I'm just taking a half unit shot on that Levitt inside the distance. All right, moving on. We have Gabriela Fernandez going against Jasmine Jasdavicius. Nothing here. If anything, it's probably a shot on Jasmine as a dog. I think people are counting her out a little bit after her last performance as a big favorite against Natalia Silva. But, you know, you take a look at Fernandez, and I watched some of her fights, and she's getting taken down. She's getting controlled on the mat. Like, when she gets taken down, she's not getting up. Jasmine's going to be the much bigger fighter in this matchup. We saw at the weigh-ins there. So I could see Jasmine kind of taking down Fernandez and grinding her out here for 3 rounds. But if Jasmine's not able to get the fight down to the mat, it's going to be bad. I think the line's about right. Should be about a pick 'em here, just because we got a striker versus grappler matchup. If Jasmine is able to get the takedown, she probably wins the fight, and if not, she probably loses the fight. A fight that I'm just going to stay away from and watch. But the pick is going to be Jasmine Jasdavicius. Don't really want to put money on it. All right, next we're going to get to the good stuff here. This is where all my action pretty much starts, and it's going to be on the featured prelim now. With Trevor Peek, Eric Gonzalez, they were going to kick off that main card, but we lost a couple fights. It got switched around. Now this is going to be the featured prelim. So I have 2 bets here. So I have the fight doesn't go to decision in a parlay, and we'll talk about my 2 parlays at the end. But the bet I do have is the under 1.5 rounds. I got it early, though. I mean, opened up minus 115 around there. I put a unit on it, and it's been hit. I think it's like minus 160, minus 170. So money has been coming in on that under 1.5, and for a really good reason. Trevor Peek's the guy that's going to go out there with no regards to any striking defense, you know, any technique whatsoever. He's going to go out there and he's going to try to take your head off. And you can kind of say the same thing with Eric Gonzalez. Eric Gonzalez, very questionable striking defense in his own right. I think these guys are going to stand and bang. I think this is going to be just a complete car crash. I think the under 1.5 is the way to go. It's moved a little bit, but that's the play I would still look at it at this point. I think the fight doesn't go as a parlay piece is a good look as well, and I do have that fight doesn't go as a parlay piece. In terms of a pick, I'm going Trevor Peek, but laying minus 220 on this guy is something I would honestly not recommend. Super hittable. I think in his Contender Series fight, he showed like a 32% striking defense for what it's worth. I like violence here, if anything, in this fight. Under 1.5, fight doesn't go to decision. Let's get some violence on this one. All right, next one, we have the main card opener. Mike Malott going against Johan Lioness. And it's the same thing. I have the fight doesn't go to decision in a parlay piece. We'll talk about the parlay at the end, and then I also have the under 1.5 rounds. Was able to get it at plus 125, and I have a unit on that. It's moved a little bit. I think it's around a pick 'em minus 110 now, and it makes a lot of sense. You know, Mike Malott's a guy that rarely ever fights, but when he does fight, the fight ends in the first round. This guy has 8 finishes or 8 wins, all 8 of them by finish, all 8 of them in the first round. The last time he's been out of the first round was back in 2015. Like 8 years ago. And I think both guys have paths to finish here. I think Mike Malott can finish either on the feet. I think he has the power to knock out Lioness. But if this fight hits the mat, he's an incredible grappler, and I think he's going to have a significant advantage on the mat if it does get there. On the flip side, Johan Lioness, I'm not a big fan of the guy, but what he does really well is he hits hard. And Mike Malott, he's hittable. He really is. And he's going to give Lioness opportunities. So the pick's Malott. He has more ways to win, but it's another violent spot for me. It's another under 1.5. I think it's going to be another car crash here where they're both going to have opportunities to find that big shot. And if Malott does get the fight down to the mat, I think he subs them. So under 1.5, 1 unit plus 125, and then also that fight doesn't go as a parlay piece. Next, we have Tatiana Suarez going against Montana De La Rosa. I think there's a couple ways to attack this one. For me personally, I did take the fight doesn't go to decision. I got it at plus 120. It's still actually plus money out there. And the reason I took the fight doesn't go instead of Tatiana inside the distance, there was not much of a difference there. I think it was at the time like Tatiana inside the distance was like plus 125, plus 130. The fight doesn't go is plus 120. You might as well take the fight doesn't go. Just cover both sides there. But I fully expect that if Tatiana Suarez shows up and she looks anything like she did 4 years ago against, say, Carla Esparza, she runs through Montana De La Rosa in brutal fashion. If she shows up anywhere near 100%, this is, she's going to just run right through. I mean, I don't think it's going to be close. She's a minus 800 favorite for a reason, even though she's been off for so long. So, I'm not saying she went out there and made improvements over these 4 years off. She's battled a ton of things outside the cage, a ton of injuries. But what I'm saying is if she does show up and she's anywhere near 100%, I think she finishes this fight. So that's what I'm kind of banking on there. Obviously, you can't parlay up minus 800 Tatiana Suarez. I mean, you could if you want, but I'm not doing that. I'm going to take a shot on this inside the distance. This fight doesn't go to decision. So 1 unit, fight doesn't go to decision. Plus 120 is what I got it at. All right. Next, we have the people's main event. We have Augusto Sakai going against Don'Tale Mayes. This fight, man, I don't know. I don't know what to do here. So I do have a play on this fight. It's not really playable anymore. So they opened up the under 2.5 rounds on BetOnline at plus 140 on Monday, and it was there for a while. And I was like, why is this under 2.5 at plus 140? So I put a unit on that. I was not expecting it to move this much, but it has. And then all of a sudden it started to come back a little bit. So this under 2.5 is now sitting around like minus 120, minus 125, I see. I don't hate that. I don't hate violence in this heavyweight matchup here, but the line has moved quite a bit there. So I have a unit on the under 2.5 plus 140. I like that bet, but I don't like this fight, man. I think it should be a get-right spot for Sakai. I really do. It's just, it's hard to trust either of these guys. Sakai, he's losing, and he's lost 4 in a row, all by knockout, but he's losing to Overeem. He's losing to, Sergey Spivak. I mean, he's losing to really good guys, and Don'Tale Mayes is not a really good guy. He's the opposite of a really good guy. But with that said, Sakai has a huge hole in his game at this point, and everybody knows it, and that huge hole in his game is the takedown defense and the get-up game. It's just non-existent. So if Don'Tale Mayes was able to go out there and wrestle Sakai, sure, he could TKO him, right? So it's one where, I was so tempted on Augusto Sakai, and this feels like a spot where I should be betting on the guy, but I just have a bad feeling about this one. I question Sakai's chin at this point, and this is a heavyweight fight. Like, Mayes has power. I question the chin of Sakai. I question the confidence of Sakai. But as far as a pick, I'm going to pick him to win. But I think the best bet is probably that violence at this point. So give me the under 2.5 rounds just because I think Sakai is going to have a big advantage on the feet. I think he could knock out Mayes. And then on the flip side, Mayes could probably knock out Sakai on the feet, honestly. And if Mayes is able to get on top of Sakai, we've seen that Sakai has no answer off his back whatsoever. So it's under or pass. This fight probably should be passed on, but I do have a 1-unit shot on the under 2.5. at plus 140. Like I said, that line's moved a ton. I don't know if I'd get to it here at like minus 125, but I don't think that's a terrible look at this point. All right, next we have Andre Muniz going against Brendan Allen. Nothing here. Brendan Allen. A lot of people on Brendan Allen this week, and it makes sense to an extent. I'm on the Muniz side, but minus 230, I'm okay on that. If I was to play Muniz, it probably would be a look at the inside the distance at around a pick 'em there, but nothing I'm really running to the window for. No totals really sticking out on this one. It's a pass spot for me. I think it's a phenomenal fight. I think it's probably, honestly, one of the best fights on the card. It's just nothing sticking out from a betting perspective. I know a lot of people are taking a shot on Brendan Allen. I get it. I've been a non-believer in Muniz as of late. But, I think he wins this fight. I think he takes down Allen, controls, and potentially gets a sub, but nothing sticking out from a betting perspective in this co-main event. The pick is Muniz, though. And then the main event, We have Nikita Krylov going against Ryan Spann. I do have 2 plays here. The first one, you guessed it, is on the under 1.5 rounds, 1 unit minus 115. That line has moved a little bit throughout the week. I think it's around like minus 140 now. I think it's going to be another car crash. You know, Nikita Krylov, both guys really, they fight like absolute maniacs in that first round, especially Krylov. I mean, Krylov fights like a guy that just got shot out of a cannon, and Ryan Spann has not seen the second round in like 5 or 6 fights. I think the thing about this fight and why I do like violence so much is both guys can win by knockout. Krylov has power on the feet, has that power on the mat with that TKO potential, and then Ryan Spann has a ton of power on the feet, and then both guys can win by submission. Krylov can absolutely win by submission. He's won plenty of fights by sub, and then Ryan Spann absolutely can win fights by submission. On the flip side, both guys can be knocked out. Ryan Spann, I really question his durability, and I question the submission defense of Nikita Krylov. I think Krylov can absolutely be subbed here. He's been submitted 6 times. So I like violence here. I like the under 1.5. I have 1 unit on it, minus 115. And then I also have the fight doesn't go to decision in a parlay piece as well. That fight doesn't go to decision line has moved quite a bit, though. It's now like minus 1,000 on most books. But I still think you can get it on FanDuel and Bet365 for like minus 800, but I did parlay it earlier in the week at minus 600 on Bet365. So I'll go over those 2 violence parlays I have. The first violence parlay is my big one, my biggest play of the night. I have 2.5 units on the Mike Malott Johan Lioness fight doesn't go to decision, parlayed with the Nikita Krylov Ryan Spann fight doesn't go to decision. That came out to around minus 169, minus 170. That was on Bet365, and then I also made a parlay of the Eric Gonzalez, Trevor Peek fight doesn't go to decision, parlayed with the under 3.5 in the main event, Nikita Krylov, Ryan Spann, that came out to minus 173, and I have 1.5 units on that. So my final plays, 1 unit on the Dontel Mays Sakai under 2.5 rounds, plus 140. That line has obviously moved a ton. Probably a pass fight at this point. Mike Malott, Johan Lioness, under 1.5 rounds, 1 unit plus 125. Eric Gonzalez, Trevor Peek, under 1.5 rounds, 1 unit minus 115. Nikita Krylov, Ryan Spann, under 1.5 units, or under 1.5 rounds, 1 unit minus 115. 1 unit on the De La Rosa Suarez fight doesn't go. A half a unit on the fight to end by submission, Selecki Deaton. Levitt wins inside the distance, half a unit plus 200. And then those 2 violence parlays, the Malott Lioness fight doesn't go, parlay with the Spann Krylov fight doesn't go. And then also the other violence parlay is the Gonzalez Peek fight doesn't go, parlayed with the Nikita Krylov Ryan Spann under 3.5. I think it's a sketchy card in terms of like a money line perspective. Like, you can make a case for pretty much every single dog on this card outside of Montana De La Rosa. And even like De La Rosa, you could say like Suarez is coming in here off a like 4-year layoff, right? So I'd kind of tread lightly in that aspect, but I think it's a solid week for some props, and we'll see what happens, but should be an interesting card, especially this main card. I like the main card a lot. The prelims or whatever, but the main card's fire. All right, guys, we did it. We broke it down. If you guys can please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you guys like down in the comments. Let me know what spots you guys are liking for this card. I'm liking some violence for this card. I think it's going to be a card that does deliver. On paper, it's not the best, but I like these matchups quite a bit. Follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. Going to be going live 1 hour prior to the prelims on Saturday for Best Bet. Should be a fun Best Bet show on Saturday there. And other than that, best of luck for UFC Vegas 70. Let us make some money. Let's enjoy the fights. And then we have UFC 285 to look forward to. And I'll tell you right now, these 4 cards in March, they are incredible. No more of these, no more of these Jordan Wright, Zach Pauga co-main events. No more of these William Knight type fights. We have some serious fights, some serious action happening in the month of March. Really looking forward to March. But first, we're going to get through this card. We're going to try to make some money on this card. But yeah, March is going to be fun. Best of luck, guys. We'll talk to you soon, and see you later.